All right. Well, welcome back for those of you who were here last week, and for those of you who are new, welcome for the first time. My name's Aaron, and today we are going to be doing another Java programming project. And if you've never done any programming before, no problem. That's great. A couple people from last week had some trouble getting IntelliJ and Java set up and installed, especially on Windows. So I've got a couple extra tips and information about how to do that. And today, for Halloween, we are going to be doing the Scary Maze game. And let's see, if you have not heard of this game before, you might want to go play it real quick before I give it away. Here's the link in the chat to the original game. This is a game you can use to scare your friends with. Here it is. Test your skills with the maze. You play. Let's see, do I have my sound turned up? Hi, Alex, Axis Vortex. Alright, so it's just a simple, it seems at first, maze, where you're moving your cursor through the maze. Gets a little harder as you go on. Alright, here's the hard level. Okay, it's kind of hard to play on the trackpad. Let's see. Oh yeah, if you are pregnant or have any small kids watching, you might want to turn it off for just a second. So, there you have, in a nutshell, the Scary Maze game. We're going to be making our own version of it today in Java. And there's a bunch of other versions of this game too. I saw like a Where's Waldo version. But the general idea is you get your game player to to focus as hard as they can on something unrelated, and then scare them with a scream and an ugly picture. So, let's go ahead and get started. Let me see. I'm going to try to put links into the chat for all this stuff, and then also later this afternoon I'll be posting up on my website all the information from today along with the archive video. Oh, shoot. I wasn't showing my desktop. Anyway, go play the game on your own if you want to see it. Anyway, here's the link to IntelliJ that we're going to be using in the chat. Let me bring it up in my web browser also. Let's see. There's the IntelliJ download page. Download the Community Edition if you don't have it already. And also, if you're on Windows, you need to also download the Java Development Kit, JDK, which I'm also posting the link in the chat. Here's the page. It's kind of confusing, but you've got to click this Accept button, and then click the Windows download down here. You probably want the 64 one. If that doesn't work, come back and try the other one. Alright, so let's get started. I'll start up IntelliJ, and I've also reset my settings today, so it'll be exactly like what you should see when you start it up. Alright, so we've got a brand new IntelliJ. Gonna create a new project. New project from scratch. Call it Scary Maze. And Last week I just told you to make a Java module. I want to start making Maven modules because it'll be easier down the road when we start doing more complicated stuff. So make a Maven module, hit next, and you don't have to wait for this list to finish. You can just hit finish. And here's our tip of the day. Did you know you can open any class in the editor quickly with Command N? Yes, I did know that, but we don't really need it today. So this project button over here shows this project tab. Here's our Scary Maze project. This file it's showing is just some information about the project. And we want to go into the source main Java folder. And then I usually right click or control click on a Mac on Java and say new Java file. And we'll just call this our Scary Maze game. And here's our new Java file. We're going to do the same pattern that we followed last time, where basically we're going to be adding some information in this top line. Then we're going to be adding some stuff in our main method, and then we're going to be adding more methods down below for each step in our process. So the first thing we got to do is get our window up again. If you remember from last week, I'm just going to follow the same process and use the same boilerplate code. So we're going to say extends JComponent. And this is the part where maybe many of you got stuck if you tried this at home, because IntelliJ doesn't know where Java is yet. And you can see it's red here. It's got this red icon in the side. If I hover my mouse, it says cannot resolve symbol JComponent. So I'm going to put my cursor here and press Alt-Enter on my keyboard, which is a shortcut you're going to use a lot in IntelliJ. It basically gives you some hints as to what you can do to fix problems. So it gives me this menu. I don't want to create JComponent. It should be there already. And Maven we'll talk more about in the future. So I need to set up my JDK is the problem here. And when I click that, there's nothing in the window. It's because it hasn't added an SDK yet. We need to configure. And this is another confusing window. We have to go to this corner and hit the plus button and add a new JSDK. That's a Java Software Development Kit. And now you'll get this window or Explorer window on Windows. If you're on a Mac, it usually finds Java for you, this home folder. Just hit choose. If you're on Windows, you're going to need to browse probably to program files /Java, and there should be a folder in there that says JDK some number. So select that if you're on Windows and hit OK. And then you should have a screen like this with a bunch of stuff filled in. Yours might say 1.6, that's fine. And then hit OK. And now IntelliJ has an SDK that it can use for compiling. And hit OK. And now that it knows what Java is, it needs one more step. I'm going to hit Alt-Enter again on JComponent and say import class. And that adds this line at the top so that it knows that JComponent is from this JavaX Swing library. And now everything's good. You should be able to continue. So our next step is to add the code in our main method. This again is boilerplate. You just kind of have to memorize it. Public static void main parentheses string args square brackets curly brace. And in here we're going to make our window. JFrame window equals new JFrame, and we can give it a title, Scary Maze by Aaron. And then we need to actually make an instance of our game. Scary Maze game equals new Scary Maze game. Then add our game to the window by saying window.add game, window.pack. These lines are just some more boilerplate. I can explain more what they do later. But for now, if you just type them, everything will work nicely. So we've got window.pack, window.set location relative to null, window.set default close operation, window constants dot exit on close is the longest one, and finally window dot set visible true, which of course makes the window visible. So let's run our program. You'll see this run button up here is grayed out at the moment. So since we've never run our program before, it doesn't know what it should run. So if you go over to this left pane and right click, or on the Mac control click your scary maze game and go to run, then it'll add it to this menu, and from now on you'll just be able to click that play button. Alright, here's our window. So step 2 is to give the window a size and to start drawing some graphics into the window. So the way we do that in IntelliJ is we can use this shortcut, which is in the code menu, override methods, and you can see the shortcut is Command O. On Windows it's probably Control O, but it'll tell you in the menu what the shortcut key is. So we'll do that. And this is 2 more things you have to remember. We're going to override the getPreferredSize method and the paint component method. There's a whole bunch in here, so you need to remember those 2. So if I just start typing getPreferredSize, it'll jump right to it, and I can just hit enter, and there it is. This method, we say return new dimension, and then in parentheses give it the size of the window we want. I like to use 800 by 600 just because it's a nice rectangle and it's a pretty standard size. It fits well on the screen, but if you've got a bigger monitor or you just want the window bigger or smaller or a different shape, you can use whatever size you want. Alright, we've got to make our paint component method, which we'll use the shortcut for again, code override methods, and type paint component, and it'll jump to it. Hit enter, and here's our method for drawing in the window. Let's just do something simple to start with. g.setColor, color.red, g.fillRect, 0, 0, 800, 600. We'll fill the whole screen with red. So let's run it again. I'm going to use the shortcut on the keyboard, which is Shift F10. That's the same as pressing this play button here in the toolbar. And there's our window. It's got a size, and it's drawing whatever we want now. Alright, so our scary maze is going to have, it's got to have, let's see. First we've got to have, the levels. So I'm going to have 3 maze levels today. And we need an intro screen, and the reason we need that is because we need to make sure the mouse is in the right position to start level 1 when we start it. And we also need the game over screen, and we're going to need some sounds, but we'll get to the sounds a little bit later. So, knowing that we need all those graphics, let's go make them. Or I've got a couple saved already. This one I made earlier, or last night. Here, this is going to be my intro screen. So I'm just going to drag it over into my resources folder. And it makes this window, just hit OK. And now it's put that image file into my resources folder. Let me show you how to draw that on the screen now before we go and make the other levels. So, last week we used some variables to hold the positions of our of the ball in our Pong game. And today we're going to use variables to hold the images for the different levels so that we can switch from level to level just by changing the variable. But first we need to load these images. So where my cursor is at is inside of the Scary Maze class, so inside this first curly brace. And I usually do this at the top, and it needs to go before the main method. Well, it doesn't need to go before, but it at least needs to go outside of the main method. And the type of thing we're making is called a buffered image. Buffer just means it has some memory in the computer reserved for it, where all the pixels are stored. And this is going to be my intro screen. I'll just call it intro. And here's the boilerplate code we need for loading the image. We say image io dot read get class dot get resource, and then double quotes the name of the file. Intro.png is what it's called over here. And then at the end of the line, a semicolon. Now there's one trick with reading images, is that they can potentially cause an exception in your program, and Java needs to handle that a little bit differently. So unfortunately we can't just leave this line here. I'm going to use Alt-Enter, just like we used to fix the J-component problem. Alt-Enter, and we need to move this line of code to what's called a constructor. I'll just hit that, and see it's kind of split what we wrote into two lines. It leaves the variable definition up here, and then it moves the code where we load the image down into this special method that has the same name as our class. This is code that's just going to be run whenever we create the game. So there's still an error here. I'm going to use Alt-Enter again and say add exceptions to method signature. That basically just adds this text, throws IO exception, which is all Java needs. It's basically just whining at us to acknowledge that there's a potential exception. So we'll make it happy and give it this IO exception. It's going to have the same problem in the main program, so just put your cursor where the red squiggly line is, hit Alt-Enter, and say add exceptions to method signature. It adds it here, or you could have just typed it there by yourself without using Alt-Enter. And now we can run our game again. It's not going to show anything new yet, but we have our image file loaded into this intro variable. So let's use it by going down to Paint Component, and I'm going to say g.drawImage, and then the variable that holds our image, which is called intro, and then the XY position where we're going to position the top left corner of the image, which is 0, 0, the top left of the screen. And then you've got to give it this last parameter, null, which is used when you're loading images off of websites, but you're not normally going to need it. Alright, so with that, if we run our program, Shift F10, it's showing the image that I drew and that's saved in intro.png. Awesome. Alright, so let's go make a couple new images for our maze levels. I am going to use a program called GIMP, which is a free image editing program. It's available for Windows and for Mac. Let me put the link in the chat room. But if you have any other kind of program, you can use Microsoft Paint or Preview on the Mac or Photoshop or any other image editing program you want. I'm going to start by opening the starting intro image. So this is to find your IntelliJ project, you want to go to your home folder, and there's probably a folder called Idea Projects. It might be in your Documents folder, or if this isn't there, try looking for a folder called Workspace. But go into there, and then hopefully you'll see your project, Scary Maze. And go to the source folder, main, Java, resources. And then there's my intro image. Alright, I am going to draw a new image for level 1, and I want to make sure that this dot is a valid location on the level 1 maze. So I'm just going to note the location is 440 by 505. Alright, so let's pick a color for my new level. Going to, let's see, maybe make a pink path. Let's make it light, maybe. Get my brush selected. Alright, so 450 by 500. Whoops. Oh, my color disappeared. Whoops. What is wrong with this? Let me choose that color. Okay. Alright, so 440 by 500, it was around here, is the starting location. Alright, and the first level is going to be pretty easy. Just going to make a big path around. And then we're going to use, I'm going to use the same green color as the exit. It'll just make it easier. Although if you want to use different colors for the exits on different levels, that's perfectly fine. I'll show you how to handle that in the code when we get to that. But for my levels, I'm just going to use the same green color. Switch back to my brush. And here's the exit. So here's my level 1. I'm going to export it and call it level1.png. Export. And let's see. Let's make a level 2 real quick. I'll have a purple one with maybe a light green path. Let's see, the exit was somewhere over here. So here's where level 2 is going to start. I'll make this level kind of simple too. I'll have kind of a medium path, and then maybe like a tiny little narrow part that you have to go through. It curves around. And then it'll get big again. And I'll have my exit over in the corner. Alright, let's save that as level 2. And finally, level 3, the hard one. Let's make it dark red with maybe orange. There's a good color. Alright, so here's the starting area. And then we're going to get progressively smaller as the level goes on. And then the tiny part. Maybe smaller than that. Maybe even tinier, so they think there's hope. And then the exit is going to be right here. See if they can get to that. Alright. And this is saved as level 3. So this is probably going to be the part you'll spend the most time on, is making your levels. Finally, we need one more thing. We need the game over screen. And I have one picked out right here. Nice and disgusting looking. And if you're using your own image, or when you find your own image, you want to make sure to resize this to be the size that your game window is. So if I open this in preview, I have already resized this to be 800 by 600. Oh, actually it's a little larger, but that's the size of my window. If you leave it too small, you'll just see it that size when you load it into the game. Alright, so let's copy my game over image into the resources also. So now we've got all these images. Let's load them into variables. I'm going to use Command D, which basically duplicates the line you're on. We've got level 1, level 2, level 3, and game over. And we're going to load those. Level 1 is level1.png. Level 2 is level2.png. Level 3 is level3.png. And game over is gameover.png. Alright, let's just run it to make sure everything's working. Oh, there's a problem. It says illegal argument exception. That usually means you didn't type one of your file names right when you're loading images. So if we look at this, it says Scary Maze Game, and it gives us a line number. We can click on that, and it's saying that game over is the problem. Let's check. Game over. Oh yeah, game over is a JPEG, not a PNG. I've got to say gameover.jpg. Alright, let's try running it. Okay, it started up, so the loading of the images went fine. Now, let's add the code to switch to different levels. So, we've got to do two things here. First, we've got to make our program be able to show different levels, and then we've got to wire up the game so that it will listen to the mouse and actually switch to the other level when it's the right time to. So let's start with the first part. We need to update our paint component so that it is capable of drawing different levels, and it needs to also be capable of drawing different levels without changing the code in paint component. So I'll show what that means in just a second. So let's go to paint component. We're drawing our intro image, and I said we need to be able to draw different images. Well, we can draw our game over image and run it, and it draws the game over screen. But I also said we need paint component to be able to draw different images without having to change the code. So if I wanted to go to level 1, I'd have to come in here, change the code to level 1, and rerun my program. So that won't work. We can't restart and retype our program every time we want to switch levels. So what we need to do is make a variable to hold the level that we're currently on. So this is getting a bit meta here because level 1 is already a variable, but we're going to have another variable that holds the contents of the image that we're currently on. So there's a new shortcut that I didn't cover last week. If you press Command Option on the Mac or Control Alt on Windows, and then the letter V for variable, it'll make a new variable we'll call this current level. And now let's take this line that it created and move this to the top of our program. And I'm also going to change this to set the current level in our constructor. So here in the beginning of our constructor, we're loading all the images, and then after we've loaded them, I'm going to set the current level to be the intro screen. So now Paint Component is drawing current level. If we run it, we'll see the current level is the intro, because that's what it starts as. And we can also make different screens appear just by changing the value of current level. So we don't have to change the code here anymore to change what we're seeing. I can just go up here and say current level equals level 3 and run it. And it's showing level 3. So yes, I did change code, but I didn't change any of the code in Paint Component. It's still exactly the same. So that means we can have other parts of our program change the value of current level, and then the next time it draws the screen, it'll draw the new thing. So let's make our current level intro to start with. Now we're going to add the mouse motion listening, which we did last week also. We've got the three parts again. We've got the part that goes in the header, we've got the part that goes in the main program, and then we've got more stuff that we add at the bottom. So the stuff in the header is implements mouse motion listener. And then IntelliJ gives us a hint. It says there's something wrong. I'm going to use Alt-Enter, say implement methods, and that's going to create these two methods for us. That's good. And here we are, mouse dragged. I don't want to do anything when the mouse is dragged, but when the mouse is moved, that's where we're going to do the real work. We are going to check the color of the pixel that the mouse is over and either go to the next level or show the game over screen, depending on whatever is appropriate for the color that the mouse is over. So we'll do that in a second. We've got the third step of adding our mouse motion listener, which is in our main method. We need to say game.add mouse motion listener game. Just to tell Java that the game itself wants to know when the mouse is moved over the game. You don't have to listen to your own events. Other people can listen to events for you and so forth. So, now we've got to do a couple things to implement this. First of all, we need to find the color of the pixel that the mouse is over. Well, first of all, we need to know what pixel the mouse is over. And that is in this mouse event thing called E. So if we type E dot, there's a whole bunch of stuff we can get out of E. X is the X position of the pixel. And if you hit Command Option V, or on Windows, Control Alt V, it'll make a variable for that. So now we've got X stored. We'll also do E.getY to get the Y position where the mouse is, and Command Shift V, Y. So now we know the position of the mouse. Now we want to find the color of the pixel that the mouse is over. And we're going to get that by asking the image that's being shown. So we'll say current level, which is an image, dot, and it's got a whole bunch of stuff it can do, just like the mouse event. The one we want is called getRGB, which gets the color at a particular pixel. And the location is X, Y. And then I'm going to hit Command V again to store this in a variable. I'll call that color. So color now is a variable that holds the color where the mouse is. The problem is these colors are stored as integers in the computer's memory, and we really don't know what the numbers are. So I'm going to do a little debugging thing here where we say system.out.println, and then you can give it a variable or text or something. And this is just going to print out the number into this white console at the bottom when we run the program. So let's try it out. I'm going to do Shift F10 to run the program. And as I move the mouse around, you can see over here in this corner, it's printing out all these numbers. That is the color number. So we're not really going to worry about how it creates those numbers or what they mean today. We're just going to know that this number corresponds to this dark gray color. If I move my mouse here into the dot, it changes to a different number. So here it's 117 something. In the light green dot, it's 155498808. Oh, negative, by the way. The negative is important. Okay, so let's quit the game. I'm going to copy this number. And now, let's add the code so that we'll go to level 1 when they move the mouse into that dot. I'm going to say if color equals, and I need to use 2 equal signs in a row when I'm comparing things. And then the color number for the light green dot, and then a curly brace. So if color is the light green dot's color, then we'll say current level equals level 1 and change it. And then something you've always got to remember to do in these mouse listeners or any kind of event listener, at the end you've got to say repaint so that it'll redraw the screen. Otherwise the variables will change, but you won't actually see it. You won't see anything happen. So let's try it out. Run the program. Alright, I move into the dot and it changed to level 1. Perfect. And I can move all around. So we've got 2 things to do for level 1. First, if I move to the dot, it should go to level 2. And if I hit this orange, it should go to the game over screen. So let's do the orange first. Here's the color number for the orange, -4758784. And we'll add another if statement here. If color equals this new color, current level equals game over. Let's try it out. So we go to level 1, and if I hit the wall, game over. Don't scream too loud. Okay, the second part, we need to go to level 2 when we get to the end. Someone in the chat is asking if it would be useful to put your levels in a list. Yes, it would. I'm not covering lists or arrays today just to keep things simple, but if you're a more advanced programmer and know about using arrays, then you can go ahead and do that. It'll make things a little easier, especially if you want to add multiple levels. Alright, so going to level 2, we've got this color. In my case, it's the exact same color I used on the intro screen to start level 1. But if you have a different exit color for your level 1, you can find out the color by hovering your mouse. And if you have a different exit color, then you've got it easy. You can just add another if statement and set current level to level 2. But in my case, it's the same color. So we need to have an if statement inside of this color. I'm going to say if current level is intro, then we're going to go to level 1. Else, if current level equals level 1, then go to level 2. And let's just add the rest of these. Else, if current level equals level 2, then go to level 3. And you do need this else in here because that makes sure it only ever does one of these things. If you didn't have else, then here it would switch to level 1, and then it would check, and it would be level 1, so it would switch to level 2 right away, and then it would check, and it would be level 2, and it would switch to level 3, all in the same instant. So that's why we need the else, to make sure it only does one at a time. All right, let's try running it and go to level 2. Here's level 1. Here's level 2. But level 2 doesn't have walls working yet. So let's find out the color of this wall. It's negative 9628998. And we're going to do the same thing. If color equals this number, then current level equals game over. Now while we're here, let's fix up these numbers so that it's a little easier to read. I'm going to put my cursor here and turn this into a variable so that we can give it a name. Use Command Option V or Control Alt V on Windows. And I want to select this whole negative number and give it a name. This is wall level 2 wall color. And let's do the same thing for this number. This was the level 1 wall color. And let's move both of these up here. And then let's do the same thing for this number also. Command Shift V. And this is the goal color, that green. So now this is a lot easier to read. It just says if color equals gold color, do this. If color equals level 1 wall color, do this. And then you can just define all of your colors here and basically give them names to refer to in your code. Makes things a lot simpler. All right, so we've got our level 2 wall color. We need the level 3 wall color. So let's play through our game. Level 2. Shoot. Okay, let's cheat here and comment out this game over stuff so we can get to level 3 and find out the color. Level 2, level 3, and this color is the red, negative 7272684. Turn this stuff back on. And we'll just make this right away. Level 3 wall color equals this number. And then we'll say if color equals level 3 wall color, then go to game over. Oh, and let's do one other thing. So in order not to give away the scary ending, oftentimes in Scary Maze, you'll just go back to the intro if you lose level 1 or even level 2. So let's do that. If we, let's have level 2 go to game over. But if we lose on level 1, it'll just go back to the intro. Let's try that. A little more devious. So we lose level 1, it goes back to the intro. If we lose on level 2 or 3, however, game over. Okay, so that's all pretty good. Of course, the thing we are missing is the scary sounds. So, we're going to need to get some sounds first. I've got a couple picked out. I'm going to use two. I'm going to use a music, background music, like this. This will be a ploy to make people turn up their volume by having a quiet music in the background. And we've got some screams. Let's see. I've got a couple different screams. Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you where you can find sounds like this in Safari or your web browser. There's a website called freesound.org, and they have a bunch of sounds that are either public domain or Creative Commons licensed, which generally means that you need to give attribution to the person who created it. Let me put the link in the chat. So there's a good place you can go to find sounds that you can legally use in your game. There's a whole bunch. So here are a few I downloaded earlier. And when I post this up, I'll put the links to the sources of these, to the original authors. We've got a woman screaming. We've got a crazy man screaming. A group of women screaming. Another woman screaming. A psycho screaming. Monster screaming. I kind of like this man screaming, so I'll use this one. So, I am going to just duplicate this file and rename it just to be called Scream, and then move it into my resources folder. And there it is. I'm going to do the same thing with the music. This one I think is the one I liked. I'll just rename it to be called Music. Move it over to Resources. So the types of files I should also mention. You can use WAV files in Java, and you can use AIFF files. If you have something else, probably like MP3 is the most likely, you'll need to convert it to one of these in order for it to load in Java. There's ways to play MP3s. I'm hoping to find a good, easy way to show in future episodes. But for now, and I'll go to a music editor that's free also in just a second and show you how you can convert MP3s to WAV files. But now that we've got our files in our resources, let's create variables for them. These are going to be audio clips. I'll make one called Scream, and I'll make one called Music. And it wants me to hit Alt-Enter here on these red audio clips. Import class, and there's a bunch of different ones, so we want this one. That's java.applet.audioclip. The others just have weird names, so don't use them. And these we can actually initialize right here when we make them. We're going to say japplet. This is boilerplate code for loading the audio clips. You just kind of have to remember this or make yourself a cheat sheet. japplet.newAudioClip, and then we're going to use the same line that we used for loading images. Get class.getResource, and then in double quotes the name of the file. So Scream for me is scream.aiff, and then a semicolon at the end. And then music is going to be japplet.newAudioClip, get class.getResource, music.wave, W-A-V. Okay, so we've got these loaded. When we start the game, I want the music to keep looping, actually, so I'm going to say music.loop. And then the key part is when we show the game over screen, and there's two places here. We're going to play the scream.play, and also play it here. Scream.play. All right, let's try it out. Prepare to be scared. All right, we've got the background music playing. And here we are in level 2. Let's see if I can get through here. Failed. But our sound works. However, you may have noticed that there was a slight delay with that sound when it started playing. So it kind of lost the surprise effect. And the reason for that is because of the sound file itself. So let me show you how to edit sound files. There is another great free program. It's called Audacity. I'll put the link in the chat. And I've already got it installed. It's for Windows and Mac. It works on both. And we can use this to edit our sound files. So I'm going to open. Let me see where I'm at. I'm in. Okay, so from my home folder, Idea, Projects, Scary Maze, Source, Main Resources, Scream. Let's open it up. Sure, I don't know what that means. So here's the Scream file, and you can see it's got this big chunk of silence at the beginning. So I'm just going to select that and delete it. I'll also delete this silence at the end just to keep the file smaller. And then let's save, or you've got to export if you're saving as a file instead of a project. Okay, I'll just save it to my desktop. So, like I mentioned before, if you have MP3 files that you want to use and that you legally can use in your game, you can open those up in Audacity and then save them as WAV files or as AIFF files and use them. Alright, that's enough. Oh, let's do one more thing. Let's make the scream louder. I'll use the amplify effect. Make it even louder. It's okay if it clips. Alright, let's test that. Sounds perfect. Okay, so now I'll save it. Save it to my desktop. Yes, replace. And that's enough for Audacity. Okay, now I've got to move this new Scream into my resources folder and replace the old one. That's fine. Okay, let's try it out now. And now that we've clipped that silence out of the beginning, we should hear the scream start right away as soon as I make a mistake. Hopefully I'll get to level 3 here. As soon as I make the slightest, tiniest mistake, he's gonna scream in our faces. Okay, made it. Level 3. Oh man. Yeah, this just looks impossible. But I'll try it. Oh man, this is hard on the trackpad. Okay. Here we go. Right through the small intestine. That's pretty good, even when you know it's coming. Okay. So, let me show you one little piece of cleanup we can do. So, you may have noticed that this, when we hit a wall in level 2, and when we hit a wall in level 3, we're doing the exact same thing. We're playing the scream, and we're switching to the game over screen. So, programmers don't like seeing duplication like that, and there's a reason. It's because if we wanted to change what happens when the game over happens, then we'd have to change this place, and we'd have to change this place. And if we had more levels, we'd have to make the same changes in a whole bunch of different places. So, instead, what we can do is extract this into a reusable piece. And this is kind of similar to making a variable, but we're going to make what's called a method by selecting these two lines, and this is in Refactor, extract, and you can see here, variable, we used this earlier today a lot of times to convert numbers into variables. We're going to use a method, extract a method from the code that we've selected. And you can see the shortcut key is Command Option M, or probably Control Alt M on Windows. If we click that, it's going to ask us for a name. Let's see. I'll call this Show Game Over. And look at that, it detected a duplicate code fragment. So yes, let's replace that duplicate as well. You can see it found that duplicate code and also changed it to this Show Game Over call. So where did that code go? If we hold Command or Control on Windows and click Show Game Over, it's going to take us to where it moved this code to. And this is actually just at the bottom of our file. So let's make a change here. Let's also stop the music when we go to Game Over. And now, both places, whether it's on level 2 or level 3, it'll stop the music in either case. And if we wanted to add a 4th level, all we'd have to do is call Show Game Over, and it would do all this stuff. Let's see. I'm not going to demo that because I want to do one last thing before we go, which is I want to make a way to reset the game after somebody's lost so that you can get it ready for your next victim. Okay, so we are going to need a mouse listener. Mouse motion is just for movement, but we want a mouse listener to listen for clicks. So, since I already have the word implements up at the top, I'm going to put a comma here and say mouse, whoops, it did the same thing, mouse listener. And it's red, so let's hit Alt-Enter on it. Oh, I said mouse lister. Mouse listener. Okay, now it's still got a problem, so let's hit Alt-Enter, and it says implement methods. Yes, we want to add the mouse listener methods. There's a whole bunch. So now it's created them all for us. I want to use mouse clicked. And whenever I click the mouse, I want to say if current level is game over, then switch to the intro level. And then, just like all of our mouse events, or all of our event listeners, we need to say repaint at the end. And we also have to modify our main. That's step 3. Our main method, where is it? It's up here. We need to say game.add mouse listener game. Okay, let's try it out. So now if I go and lose, I'll lose on purpose this time. I should be able to click and go back to the intro screen. Yep, it works. Okay. Perfect. I'm pretty happy with that game. I think that's about it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, I will be on vacation, so there will be no show next week. But the following week, November... Let me see. Where is a calendar on here? November 10th will be the next broadcast. If you have any simple games that you'd like to see me do on here, or that you'd like to make yourself, send me an email at aaron@buildsomethingawesome.org. There's the link in the chat. Or just type your idea into chat right now. So, no show next week. The next show will be November 10th at the same time. If I don't hear any ideas from you guys, I'll probably find an old classic Atari game or something to do a remake of. And we'll probably be using Java again. I do want to do an Android phone project sometime in the future. And, if you have any trouble with IntelliJ, please post or email me or post on the Facebook page, because I want to make sure that the instructions for installing IntelliJ are as easy as possible. I already filed a couple bugs and feature requests with the IntelliJ team to hopefully improve the installation process on Windows. In the chat, Pac-Man or a simple platformer? Yeah, those are cool ideas. I'll see if I can put something simple and quick together for one of those. And thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll be on the chat for maybe 15 minutes or so. So if you want to try this out yourself and have some questions, you can reach me on the chat for a little while. If not, you can always email me at the email I posted. So thanks for showing up. And thanks to all the people who found this through Reddit. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to let your friends know if they're interested in programming and you think this was helpful. So thanks. Take care.